every first year transitions to a new environment.
Mm-hmm.
So it's providing a direct link in the residential space at a largely residential college to the resources that the college offers.
So sponsors aren't necessarily like going to solve all your problems, but they're going to tell you how you can solve your own problems.
And I have, in my mind, the vision of this perfect sponsor group that loves each other, and it may turn out even better than I imagine it will be.
It's never going to be perfect, so people need to stop trying to make it perfect.
What we essentially want to do is provide a safe, nurturing, intellectually stimulating environment for people in the residence halls.
How nurturing an environment can be depends on how nurturing the people are.
My sponsors were they were helping us for a little bit, and then they just stopped being there. They were in the hall, but then it just felt weird to go to them because they would sometimes facilitate very awkward situations, or they would say things that were very problematic, and I was just I couldn't go to them. I didn't trust them.
I see one of my SPIBs fairly regularly, and I don't know if the rest of them still go here.
So in student affairs, we operate that changes the norm, not the exception.
Okay.
That's just what we assume in student affairs, student life.
Right.
Changes always occur.
I feel like some things do not change regardless of the feedback offered. I feel like the same criticisms have been offered of training for a few years now.
There were 50 topics, 50 distinct topics, jammed into 2.5 weeks, not even a half week, 2 weeks of training.
There were certain dialogues that were happening in the lecture that were not made accessible to everybody. For example, the lecturer, she spoke in Spanish at certain points, failing to then translate what she had said. When the lecturer would say something, people would respond by snapping. And unbeknownst to the sponsors, snapping was a practice that Rick Towns had taught the RAs to do when they agreed with somebody and wanted to affirm their experience. There were 3 optional meetings outside of the normal 8 to 5 hours of sponsor training where people got into very, very heated arguments about snapping, which then just devolved into a cesspool of tears. One thing I would change about the sponsor group program, telling the sponsors what snapping is. It was the defining part of my experience in sponsor training. I felt comfortable at the end of the day because I bared my soul on my sleeve for a lot of people who I normally wouldn't have, and then by a virtue of that felt comfortable talking to them afterwards.
I think in general Pomona students are very willing to talk to each other about what they don't like about a program, but then when they get the chance to actually offer that feedback to the program in question, they don't always take that because, filling out a form takes time.
I think Pomona hypes up the sponsor group program as being something that, it's going to make these lasting relationships for all 4 years, and in a lot of cases it does, but in a lot of cases it doesn't always succeed 100% of the time.
I think it is inevitable that some people every year do get left out of the sponsor group experience, and I think one of the most common ways that happens is if somebody expects something from their group that the group doesn't want to do.
You really have to just sort of play it by ear and, listen to what the sponsor group is feeling.
And that could mean that they want a super tight-knit group and their group is just not really interested in that, or it could mean that their group is really tight-knit and they feel sort of excluded by that.
So I would have to agree with Anita and sort of tell you guys that you should come in not expecting any kind of ideal sponsor group experience.
And that is actually sort of one of my criticisms of the sponsor program in general, is that it is perceived as sort of a mandatory hangout, and I feel that it's supposed to be a starting place and not an ending place. I think one of the biggest ways that people give feedback to the sponsor program is by becoming sponsors. There's 2 reasons that people apply to be sponsors, because either they're like, oh my god, it was freaking fantastic, I want to do that for other people.
I had a great sponsor group experience when I was a freshman, and I feel like I've worked to give back to the hall that I live in, to give them that same kind of feel a dynamic.
Or they're like, it was terrible and I want to do it better.
So I came in sort of like kind of like angry about the whole sponsor experience. That was one of the reasons why I became a sponsor, because I was like, I'm gonna break down the sponsor group system and like, that's really not what happened.
It's like a battlefield discourse at Pomona. Because I think people are always a little bit more careful around their sponsors than they are around other people. Because you are like, it's beaten into your mind that this is a safe space, you have to be accepting, blah, blah.
So I think what I wanted out of it was just sort of a bridge for that initial awkwardness. And then after that, I guess I was a little bit disappointed that my sponsor group wasn't quite as tight-knit as some of the other ones that I saw.
So let me first start with the sponsors. We have to be more intentional, and I think we have been getting better at this, about just supporting them.
It's really hard to like balance, because like you want to be that sponsor that, yeah, I'm there to help, but then you also have to realize like, wait, I have to self-care, and like sometimes I would stay up till 4 a.m. talking to a sponsor, and I would have an 8 a.m. class.
So what are the root causes for ghost sponsoring? In some cases, being overwhelmed. You go, you know what, I can't do this, it's just too much.
One issue that came up this year was, like, we haven't expressly talked about because it kind of fell into place over the years, that she is a lot busier than I am, so I am in the hall a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most helpful sort of tool that RHS gives sponsors or RAs is collaboration, is the other people around them again.
Sometimes we didn't always have the best communication as co-sponsors, and that's really something that like we oftentimes throughout the year have just been really on different levels, and she's just not around the hall as much as I am. That's just a fact.
Number one, be blunt about the substance use question on the form.
I would remove Rick's list from existence. That when I was on the sponsor selection committee, there were a few people who shall remain nameless that were on Rick's list that the greater board, in so many words, vehemently disagreed with becoming a sponsor.
I also want to change the perception, because I keep hearing tour guides say this, and it's not accurate. There's usually like a group theme or like a unifying factor among all the people in a sponsor group. That's not true.
I have had overall great experiences both being a sponsee and a sponsor, and have cultivated relationships that were great, and that's what the sponsorship program is intended to do, which is to bridge the gap between high school and college and create relationships with people that can last you 4 years or longer.
Student leadership solidarity.
Cool.
I don't have a hand sign, but if I did, it would go here.
Pretty excited to do this whole sponsor shit, whatever that means.
Cute outfit.
Hey, thanks, you too. Cute outfit. We look nasty.
Not here.